Good afternoon, buenas tardes, to this plenary conference held by Mr. Vijay Kumar. I'll make some words in Catalan, some in Spanish, and then I'll present to you in English. Benvinguts a tots en aquesta sessió plenària del IT World Edu. És un plaer, des de la Cambra de Comerç, poder col·laborar amb aquesta iniciativa que ajuda a l'empresariat d'un sector molt concret a exposar-se al món i a tenir relacions entre ells i a través d'una sèrie d'actuacions fetes per tots. Són una dels sectors, en aquest cas, que més evolucionarà en els pròxims 5 anys. És així que tots tindrem l'oportunitat de veure com les nostres empreses generen i tenen oportunitats de créixer arreu del món i d'expandir la seva actuació i els seus serveis a altres països. No obstant, des de la Cámara de Comerç, també, pocos diría yo, hace unos 4 años, cuando nos sentamos y planteamos la posibilidad de crear este subsector de las tecnologías dedicadas a la educación. La educación es una de las prioridades de cualquier país. La educación es aquello que nos va a hacer diferentes en los próximos años. La educación es aquella variable que va a crear la diferencia, el diferencial de competitividad de un país respecto de otro. Desde esta tribuna querría agradecer a todas las instituciones que han hecho posible esta sesión y, evidentemente, esta feria, este evento llamado IT World Edu. Having Mr. Vijay with me today is a great honor and pleasure. I'm sure that Mr. Vijay, who's coming from the MIT, not by a coincidence, it happens that the Chamber is leading one of the initiatives in Spain that has been renewed at the MIT. Its name is MIT Spain. MIT Spain is one of the initiatives with more success, internationally talking, like businessmen and like the civil society, with the knowledge and also with the excellency of the persons that could give us different views, different aspects. In fact, we want to see the future through different visions. The vision we're going to have today here, it's given by Mr. Vijay Kumar. He's actually the senior like us with meaningful proposals, with enjoyable managing energy on his initiative, engaging all of us to his project, and connecting with you, this for sure. So let us establish the relationship with Mr. Vijay, which I'm sure would be a meaningful, profitable, and also he'll give a positive framing to all we have been discussing those days. So no more words from my side. Mr. Vijay, it's a great pleasure to having you here today.
Thank you. Thank you. Can you all hear me? Okay. I have taken off the translation thing for a bit, and I'll put this on later on when there are questions. First of all, let me say that, aside from saying that I talk fast, let me say that it is a real pleasure, real privilege to be here. This afternoon we had some terrific conversations, Jose and over lunch, actually, about the intersection of education, technology, and innovation. I felt that was the price of the ticket. Listening to Dr. Adele this morning was energizing, and I hope I can carry some of that enthusiasm and energy at this late stage of the afternoon. I also want to echo this very strong relationship that has been established through the MIT Spain program, which is actually a rip-roaring success. But not to stop short, even as we were eating today, we were plotting to see how this can be even better, symbiotic as we look ahead. So what I want to do today is give you a sense of the opportunity that I think exists in this intersection of technology, education, and innovation. And I want to give you a glimpse of some of the kinds of activities that illuminate this opportunity. And these are based on experiences that I have, projects that I have championed or led, participated in some cases sort of observed and drawn conclusions from as an educator, as a researcher, as a planner. I'll say a couple of things just to set my own personal context. I am a chemical engineer. I did my master's work in industrial management, but I was applying quantitative techniques, OR techniques, simulations for educational planning. And then I worked as a consultant in India, and we were sharing that information this afternoon. But my doctoral work was, research work was in education, in educational technology, but the particular research focus was on planning for introducing technological innovations in developing countries. So I took gadgets like Speak and Spell and Speak and Math, for those of you who might remember, this is from the 80s, to schools, elementary schools in Africa, in Lesotho, to understand the implications for elementary education, and then teaching things like Logo over there, and used it as a field study for planning. Why I'm saying that is that those aspects of innovation diffusion, planning diffusion, will seep into my comments. That my bias will show, because one of the key messages that I have to make today is about the process of innovation. Now, a couple of things, and of course the rest he has described at what I do at MIT, which is basically to help the institute think strategically about how technology can advance education, which is teaching and learning, how it can help us think about the interface between research and education, between living and learning. So, it is a large part of the job is walking this line, walking this middle line, walking the interface between disparate domains. And I was joking to Mrs. Santa Maria this afternoon that one of the things that I sometimes feel that people in my business consistently enjoy is the total lack of credibility on either of these, from either of the domains when you walk in the middle. But that's the challenge of the job. A very quick word. This is a little bit of self-marketing over here. The title over here, it was wonderful to hear Dr. Adele this morning when he was talking about mashups and mix-ups. The title over here is blended, and the Opening Up Education is actually the title of a book that my colleague at the Carnegie Foundation, Tori Iyoshi, and I have put together, which was just released by MIT Press a couple of weeks ago. But it looks at something that I'm going to talk about, which is the whole realm of open education. And because there are lots of these initiatives that have been launched, and our book has invited about 30 practitioners to write chapters, it's an anthology, to reflect on this whole movement and say, listen, it's fine that these are there, these great initiatives are there, but how can they collectively make a difference? So Opening Up Education is the title of the book, and that's where the opportunities from the boundarylessness. So the key messages, and I like to say this because as you will notice as this talk proceeds, that I have a tendency to go into hypertext mode. So I'll be going off, but I want to make sure that I leave you with a couple of, with a few key messages. The first one is about opportunity, that ICT, along with this gathering storm of open educational resources, presents tremendous educational opportunity and even the potential of transformation. And I'm saying these things separately. There's opportunity and there's transformation. And when I say macro scale, it is at the scale of national crusades. One of the things that I'll point to is the last 2 years I've been fortunate to serve as an advisor to India's National Knowledge Commission. This was a government established commission to look at how to advance educational opportunity, given India's ambition to participate much more actively in the global economy. And one of the significant recommendations that I put forward, which actually has been accepted, is around open education. And so those are macro transformations that are possible. The second key point that I want to make is, yes, there is potential for transformation, but we have to remember that transformation is a systemic phenomenon. That is, there are subsystems. Really think about why it is we are engaging in that. I was talking to one of the journalists before, and there was a question, is technology moving too fast for education? And I thought about that, and I was saying, well, you know, only if you let it. If you sort of, in fact, in some cases I will say that technology is not moving fast enough for education, because many of the technologies that were not created with education in mind. They were created for other purposes, and then we are retrofitting, we are modulating, we are adapting in order to serve some educational goals. And some of the things we have begun to do at MIT is really start from the get-go with the question, what is the educational problem that we're trying to solve? What is the value proposition that we're trying to attain? What is the goal over here? So really, as we think about these, and I'll show you how, for many of the initiatives that we launched that I've been engaged with, that kind of thinking has helped us, or at least been part of the foundation of why things were launched. So the third important message is really about, or is about considering the strategic value proposition. The fourth message, and this is, you know, me going back into my research mode, is really to look at the whole innovation cycle. Even when my Office of Educational Innovation and Technology was being formed, the original intent, and we were trying to think about restructuring and so on, saying, oh, maybe we'll get a couple of people and they'll go around doing interesting things, you know, because people's notion of innovation is a couple of people going and doing some interesting, catchy, bleeding edge experiments. And I will submit and I will insist that when we think about innovation, we better start thinking about the whole cycle. There is some early experiments, there is an incubation, there is a transition, and then there is a moving into sustaining services. And in fact, one of the things that when we talk about educational innovation, at least the way we have been thinking about it in our office, is that not to confuse technological innovation with educational innovation. So we are looking at a lot of very interesting technical experiments, and then we do educational incubation, try to understand their implication in terms of education, and then trying to see what will it take in order to move these responsibly, the ones that do demonstrate value, how do we move them responsibly as sustaining services? So the last key message that I want to leave you with is look at the whole innovation cycle. Okay, so much for the preaching, now for some of the opportunities. So when I think ahead, I said one of the ICT and open education. Typically, this is a stage when I ask everyone in the room, how many of you have heard of MIT's OpenCourseWare? Good. Very good. That's encouraging. The others, I would really invite you to go look at this. In 2000, MIT made, at that time, we thought a brash commitment to the world, saying that it would make the content of all its courses available on the web for free to the world. And since then, last October, 1,800 courses, all of MIT's courses, and by the way, I say that a lot because one of the things that OpenCourseWare allowed us to do is to figure out how many courses we actually had at MIT, because we didn't know. We said about 2,000. Now we know that there's about 1,800 courses, and the content of all these is available on the web. And there are other stories in terms of the key messages over here about why it is that we did that. This program, MIT's OpenCourseWare, was launched at a time when many institutions in the US, at least, were going and doing content.com kinds of initiatives. There was a university, Columbia, I think it was Fathom, and UNext, many initiatives, and which were leveraging the internet to